Greetings and salutations, and welcome to another episode of the Dino Brothers podcast. I'm your host, Joe Boogie, as always, joined by my bro, Deuce. What's good, Deucey?
Oh man, it's been a long time since we did a podcast. A lot of stuff has been happening. Raps went on a nice long road trip. Christmas, New Year's, Happy New Year's to all our followers. What have you been up to, man?
Enjoying the break, watching a lot of sports, Raptors, bowl games, juniors, but it's time to get serious about our team, the squad, the Toronto Raptors, and it was a tough little stretch over the holidays for them on the 6-game road trip.
Yeah, for sure. Like we actually saw this at the beginning of the year when we were going over the schedule. We looked at this road trip and we're like, "Holy crap, that looks hard." And sure enough, it was hard. Um, so the first game of the road trip was a loss in Chicago. Uh, and then the Raptors went out to the West Coast. We got a good win against the Clippers. They're a strong team. We beat them down. Denver on a back-to-back. That was tough, but we got the win. Um, and then Portland. I felt that game was tight. Like we definitely had many chances to win that game, just couldn't close it out. And then the last two games, like I feel like we just totally ran out of gas, ran out of options. We just got beat down by Golden State and Phoenix.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we did good. We stomped the Clippers, stomped Denver. And the Portland game is an overtime loss. That was a winnable game. Just in winning time, Damian Lillard just draining threes. We really couldn't get a basket in. It was a winnable game, but
That
disappointing.
that guy's cold-blooded, man.
Oh, but an assassin.
Yeah.
And then Golden State and Phoenix are two disappointing performances where we just got crushed. Especially the Phoenix game. I mean, I didn't like our effort in that game.
The
Poor
Phoenix game
defensive
was
effort. We looked tired, and we just weren't bringing the heat in terms of if we want to be a good team, we got to grind out those road wins and be competitive.
Yeah, the Phoenix game was just really ugly. Like I think it was the first Raptors game like in a whole year that I had a hard time watching. Like at, in the fourth quarter, I was honest. I'll admit I was flipping back to the World Junior game. Wasn't too impressed by our effort in Phoenix. Uh, Overall, if you were going to give this road trip a grade, what would you give it?
Luckily, I had the luxury of having a dual TV setup, so I didn't have to switch between games. But no, that was one of the first games that, I don't know, I was pretty discouraged watching. I know it was the last game on a 6-game road trip, but they just weren't bringing the compete level. They weren't bringing that defensive effort. It was it was just, they weren't working hard, which is what they need to do, especially in a very. I know Phoenix is a good game running up and down the court, but we we just played right into their hand, played their game, and you know, if we want to take that next step, we do gotta bring the effort every night, and it really just hurt me to see, like Terrence Ross is just getting blown by, guys aren't rotating, it's just all around just disappointing. So overall, I mean, 2-4 in a tough road trip wasn't the worst. Could have been worse, but it would have been nice if we could have came out 500 on this trip. But overall, over this last 6-game stretch, I'm giving the Raptors a grade of C minus. No, I'm giving them a D.
A
Giving them a
D.
D. Giving them a D plus.
D plus. That's harsh, man. That's really harsh. I'd give us a C plus. Like Chicago, I thought we battled that one out. Like that was pretty good, but Chicago's a tough team. Might have had better luck if we had DeMar. Clippers, Denver, good wins. Portland, like I didn't feel bad about that loss in Portland. Like Portland's a good team. We took them to right to the edge in overtime. Nothing wrong with that. It was just the last two games for me that really like started to expose the problems the Raptors are having. Our defense has just fallen off a cliff, right? Like Chicago, they put up 129 points on us. Denver 116. Uh, Golden State 126. Phoenix 125. Like we've lost that sort of defensive intensity which we started the season out with. Um, and it's really come back to haunt us.
Well, that was evident. I mean, just in fourth quarters, we gave up two fourth quarters. We gave up over 40 points, which is just ridiculous. And if you haven't been, you know, keeping up to date on Chicago, and if you saw that Raptors Bulls game, you know that Derrick Rose is back. He just torched us.
Oh
Jimmy
man.
Butler just beasting. I mean, yeah, it was.
Yeah, Chicago's a scary team. I don't look forward to facing them in the playoffs. Um, But you know what? I feel like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So this isn't like, oh my God, the season is over. I feel like this is just sort of pump the brakes. Let's reassess our expectations. Because I'll admit, I was riding high on the Raptors the entire year. Like, I was feeling excited going into it, and then I was shocked when we came out so hot. But if you really think about it, we have been sort of overperforming based on our expectations. And so these last couple losses, sure we lost, but it's just sort of, we're just sort of regressing to what we were expected to do.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we don't want this to be, a huge overreaction. The Raptors have been playing unreal basketball up to this point. Um, they're like we said, two for four in a tough road trip against really good teams isn't the worst. So no, we're definitely not overreacting. But like you said, there was a few good things that came out of the road trip in terms of, I think JV played well over the trip. He's got a number of double doubles. He's kind of getting more comfortable in his role.
Yeah, I feel like
Which
he's getting better at using his size, like against smaller defenders. Like he was beating up Alex Len when he gave him the ball in Phoenix. Um, can't quite remember what he did in Golden State, but I feel like he could have had success there. I feel like he's stepped up in DeMar's absence.
Yeah, I'd say just, they always try and get him going at the start of the game, but the important thing is I think he's being a little bit more aggressive and just, taking what's his, stepping up, going to the basket, not pump faking as much, just, being confident in his move, taking his shots, and, not overthinking things, just doing what's natural to him. So that's definitely good to see. Um, Another good thing, I'd say, well, I guess the one bad thing, and I mean, getting back to the negative, like we said, is just the defensive effort. I know they're tired on the road, but they gotta get tighter, rotate faster, have that aggressiveness that we saw at the start of the season. But like you said, it's gonna get there. I'm not, throwing up the white flag, going crazy. Um, I think we're gonna grow from this trip, from these experiences. And, this is really preparing us for the playoff run. It was good that we're getting a lot of different rotations, but, it seems like a lot more teams are game planning for us now, which is good. We're getting respect. So we're just going to have to see how we can adapt. And, I mean, Landry also played pretty solid over this road trip. So,
Yeah, and like I said, there is light at the end of the tunnel. We've got a six-game homestand coming up, uh, with a game against Charlotte on Thursday, and then Boston on Saturday, January 10th, and then Detroit and the Sixers, and then Atlanta and New Orleans. So pretty easy stretch of schedule. The only really difficult team there is Atlanta. Uh, as for the other Eastern Conference teams, like those better be wins, or else then I'm gonna start getting pissed.
oh, yeah, we're definitely going, We could. This is a very winnable stretch. Like Charlotte, Al Jefferson's out. DeMar DeRozan is expected to make his much anticipated return
Can't
of
wait. I can't wait for DeMar to come back. I've been missing him.
exactly Toronto Raptors own, our main man DeMar DeRozan, return of the king, baby, gonna be sick. Boston Saturday night, that's gonna be a prime time game. I mean, Boston always plays well against this, so we'll see how that goes, but easily winnable. Then the red hot Detroit Pistons come to town.
They have been on a tear.
They've been on a tear, but we always match up well against them, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Philly, like you said, winnable. Atlanta's going to be a test. New Orleans, I think we should be able to take that. So yeah, hopefully, this is where we regroup, Casey's got to motivate the squad, have some talks, refocus us. DeMar's back. Everyone should be getting hyped. And, this is where we're going to say, we are what you thought we were. We're legit. Let's take care of business against inferior teams.
Exactly, and I just want Demar to come back because I obviously some things have gone wrong in his absence, but like I think what we've really missed is his ability to get to the free throw line, because he knows how to fake his defender out, draw fouls, and I think that really helps in situations where we have a bit of a scoring drought. It also slows the clock down, helps us get our stamina back on defense. Um, Terrence Ross and the other guys don't have to play so much out of their roles. Uh, so, hopefully DeMar comes back and everything just goes back to business as usual in short order.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, obviously, I forget what the stat is, but our free throw attempts per game has just plummeted
It
since DeMar's been out.
it's basically gone down by 8 free throws a game, which is almost exactly what DeMar gets every game. So it's been bad.
Exactly. And not only that, I mean, with DeMar out, it's put a lot more pressure on Lowry. He's been taking, you know, a lot of abuse like he always does in his body, just throwing caution to the wind and just playing hard. But, sometimes he's been trying to do a bit too much. But like you mentioned, though, I think one of the actually other good things about this road trip or the injury to DeMar was that, Terrence Ross has had to step up and take on a bigger role. Like I mentioned earlier, yeah, he's got some defensive deficiencies at times. He just made some sloppy mistakes, but on the whole, it was a good growing experience for him to run and plays around. He was playing at the two, switching it up a bit. So that was another big learning experience for him.
Yeah, Terrence Ross has been a little bit up and down. It looks like he's really gotten good at that, like step up transition, the pull up transition three, which is nice to see. Um, but I feel like sometimes on defense he just gambles a little bit too much, leaves himself exposed, and then we have to overhelp, and that's when things start to get ugly. Another thing that's sort of hurt our defense, having Demar out, is that we have to give extended minutes to Grievous Vasquez and Lou Williams. Uh, Not that they're bad players, but defensively they're not quite as good as Demar. Grievous, I don't know if he can stay with anyone, and Lou's just a little bit undersized, so some of the bigger players can exploit that.
Exactly. So definitely. I mean, our rotation, the minutes distribution is, you know, obviously been a big change with Demar out, but historically one of the hallmarks of the Raptors teams was, they could never take care of business. They wouldn't beat inferior teams or, teams with similar records. And, this season we gotta win some games in this stretch. Earlier in the season we've been taking care of business, beating all the inferior teams, but a lot of them were a lot closer than they might seem. Like we barely squeaked out the wins. So, on this stretch, that's the most important thing for me that I want to see is, come on, guys, we've had some trials and tribulations. Just TCB, take care of business.
TCB, man. Raptors have never been good at taking care of business, but you know what? I think this year we've done a really good job of it. Um, like we still only lost one game to a team under like all those losses were those teams were above 500. So you know, it happens.
Yep, no, for sure. So, kind of, talking about the Raptors and their defensive schemes. Did you read that article on Grantland by Zach Lowe, just kind of outlining the Raptors, their place in the East, and how kind of Casey's led them, their defensive kind of mantra, and what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely wasted some time at work reading that. Uh, he touched on our offense for the first few paragraphs, which I thought was pretty interesting because yeah, the Raptors. One of the things he pointed out, the Raptors they don't get a lot of assists. Um, and Case, I can't remember if it was Casey or Masai who was saying, but like that's not really because we have ball hogs. It's just sort of how our players operate. Like Kyle Lowry and Lou Williams, they like to go right to left, take that dribble, and then do a pull up on the left side, um, and that sort of nullifies an assist. Um, so the ball is moving, but most of our guys, they score in sort of. I guess isolation, but like they know where they can score and they get the ball to them in that position. Um, and so they can put it in, even if that doesn't necessarily record as an assist on the box score.
Exactly. I mean, kind of what he's alluding to is, the NBA is like a copycat league. There's certain trends that, you know, everyone is pretty much doing nowadays, which, spacing the floor out with shooters, kind of doing what Houston's doing, taking a ton of threes, or Miami, spacing it out, shooting the three ball. But really, the personnel that we have in place, that's not their strength. We take a lot of mid-range jumpers, which, according to all the analytics and sabermetrics guys, those aren't the shots you want to be taking. But the thing is, um, you know, Lowry, DeMar, Lou, they all draw a lot of fouls. And
Hmm.
like we were saying earlier, free throws are obviously what you want to get. It's like one of the highest percentage shots, right? And then also we do take a lot of 3-point attempts. But like you said, yeah, the ball movement side, we're not a huge passing team or assisting team, but we just have a different kind of unique style.
Yeah, like one of my favorite things about the Raptors is that nobody really tries to step out of their role. Everybody knows their role, knows what they should be doing on the floor. Very rarely do you see them take out of character shots. Like JV, he's always going to go for that post up, and he's either going to go with a hook to the middle or turnaround jump shot or something like that. Tamar, he's got his mid-range game. He's got his post up. Kyle Lowry likes to drive. He's got that step back to the left. Same with Lou Williams. Um, Terrence Ross has been starting to find his role. He's a good catch and shoot 3-point shooter. Uh, I just wish he was more aggressive, like taking the ball to the rack. I feel like he's so athletic and he has so many tools in his toolbox that he doesn't actually know which tool to use. And he should really just stick to one or two options, just always go to those.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And what I found most interesting about the article is when he was talking about our defensive sets and our kind of defensive mantra, which again, you know, is much different than a lot of people are trying to emulate the Chicago and Tom Thibodeau style,
No
which is
switching.
exactly like trying to cut off the picks and screens.
Yeah, ice in
While
the
the
pick.
Raptors is just the opposite. Just be good, run around that screen faster, or do the switch. Which, again, you know, that's something that we obviously are aware of and we notice because we watch a lot of Raptors, but is especially kind of more apparent and brought to the forefront, kind of what we were talking about earlier in terms of how their defensive efforts been lacking. They're on that 6-game road trip where they were just they've been slow. They've been 2 steps behind, and when you're tired and slow, um, for the style of defense that we play, that those two things aren't congruent and don't match up, and which might explain why, part of the reason um, why we've been playing so poorly.
Yeah, like when our defense is locked in and everyone's like intense and bringing the energy. Like we're hard to beat. The problem is like there's not much margin for error. Like 1 foot too far this way, half a second slow on that rotation, and you're giving up an open three, so it doesn't look pretty. But I'm hoping that just by getting home, getting some rest, getting Tamar back in the rotation, hopefully we can just fix those issues without too much problems.
Exactly. Sleep in your own bed, see your family, see your whatever Toronto chick or side piece, get
See
comfortable.
both of them for Lou Williams.
Exactly. Get remotivated and refocused. But big announcement was that Kyle Lowry was unveiled as the Eastern Conference Player of the Month for December, which is much deserved. I mean, he just put up monster numbers this month and really carried our team on his back into Mars absence.
Absolutely. And it's been brought like we brought it up over the break, like comparing Kyle Lowry to Chris Paul. Chris Paul has been sort of regarded going into the season was regarded as the best point guard in the NBA. But I'm starting to feel like Kyle Lowry's pretty much on that level. Chris Paul's regressed a little bit. Kyle Lowry's definitely stepped his game up, especially without DeMar. So yeah, Kyle Lowry's definitely one of the elite point guards in the NBA, and he's well deserving of that award.
Exactly, and it's good to see too. You know, a Raptor and Kyle Lowry specifically getting respect, getting accolades from the league, and most importantly, this should bolster his the attention he's getting, the fan voting going into the All Star game because he deserves to be in the All Star game. Just on the numbers he's been putting up alone, he's just been unreal this season. So, you know, I hope this is bringing him to the forefront, and there's no excuse that he shouldn't be in the All Star game because he is a beast.
Exactly. I'm doing my job voting every day. Uh, Prime Minister Harper is helping us out. He sent out a tweet today with Kyle Lowry and hashtag NBA ballot, and that got a lot of retweets. Um, Dwayne Casey says he's going to fight the other coaches if Kyle Lowry doesn't make the All-Star team.
Oh, I know. I mean, Prime Minister Harper has been on point. First attending the World Juniors, next sending out that beautiful tweet, bigging up Lowry, giving him his vote, which is, it's good. Like on Twitter, that's been trending. So many people have been retweeting it. So, the leader of this fine free country, bigging up our main man, K. Lau, and most importantly, getting those votes coming in. Because, at first there was a lot of kind of steam behind, voting for our guys in, but, it's kind of probably taken a little bit of a dip. So let's get that back on everyone's mind. Keep posting, tweeting, posting your shit on IG. Let's get Kyle in there because, you know, like Dwayne said, what did he say? He's gonna fight other. If he doesn't get in by the fan ballot, the coaches need to vote him in, and if they don't, he's gonna fight them. And that's right. I'm glad first off that he's advocating for his guy, but second off, it's undeniable. Like he deserves to be in that game, and I like that. Whether he's joking or not, I like that. Dwayne Casey can joke around, spit a little fire, and stick up for a man.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think he's actually going to fight them, but if he did, I would like to see that.
For sure. And did you see the open gym focusing on Dwayne Casey, his family, his white wife?
Yeah, I did. They got all those nice shots playing in the park in Toronto in summer when it's all nice and sunny. It was pretty cool. It was sort of an inside look in the coach's life. It was all right.
For sure. Like, I don't know. Like, I like. All right, I was never a huge Casey fan historically, but he's grown on me. He's really improved as a coach. The results recently, obviously, have been undeniable.
It
But
helps when
like,
you're winning.
yeah, it helps when you're winning. But like, I was just saying, like, I like to see a little bit of personality, which is what we're seeing now, like with the whole open gym thing, seeing behind the scenes. He seems like a good dude. I love how he's, bigging up Toronto. You could tell that they're genuine when they're saying, that they do want to raise their family here. They love the city. Um, his wife is, I think he's overachieved for like, he's kind of like a weird looking dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, good for him. Good for him. Props to Casey. Props to Coach Casey. Big ups from the Dino Bros.
exactly. That gives me hope that I can also overachieve one day.
Ah,
Uh, all right, I think that about wraps up the Raptors. I'm just looking forward to that road trip coming up. I mean, the homestand coming up. Uh, but we got a lot of other news in the NBA. Not sure where to start, so let's just start with one of the older things. I think it was during the break, the Pistons waived Josh Smith, and he was promptly picked up by the Rockets. What do you think about that?
I mean, the Rockets are making moves. They wanted another piece. They're hoping Josh Smith can be that guy. It'll be interesting to see, how he fits in to the dynamics of that team there in terms of, what the spacing is going to be like. Can he play with Dwight Howard? Can he play with Harden? Because, Howard and Josh Smith are both guys that are going to be playing close to the basket, so I wonder how that's going to work out in the spacing. And kind of like we were talking about earlier, Josh Smith also is kind of, he's been taking a lot of those mid-range shots. He's been shooting low percentages, and you know, the reason why those shots are, you know, frowned upon and looked at so poorly is because of people like Josh Smith who take those shots and just brick them all the time.
Josh Smith gives the mid-range jumper a bad name.
Exactly, right? So it'll be interesting to see, and like, especially too, like, is he gonna play? What I'm interested in is obviously, the playoff implications. Are they really gonna be playing Josh Smith at the end of the game?
Yeah,
I
because
don't
he's
know.
a
I
bad
don't.
free throw shooter, right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure on that. Let's look up the numbers, but I'm gonna say he's not great.
Yeah.
And we know Dwight Howard. I've had him on my fantasy team many years. We know that he's also not a great free throw shooter. So that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. I think Josh Smith can definitely help the Rockets though. Like he's not that old. He's big. He's athletic. He can score. Just looking at his past two games, small sample size, but in his first game against Miami, put up 12 points, 6 rebounds, 66% shooting. That's pretty good. Last night against Chicago, 21 points on 50% shooting. That's pretty damn good for Josh Smith in only 26 minutes. So there definitely is a role for him. I think they got him coming off the bench, which should really help with their depth. Um, but I think the real winner of this little fiasco is Josh Smith, because now he's going to get paid by Houston, and he's still getting paid by Detroit. So
Yep, he's doing the old double dip, which is a good hustle. I mean, he's on the books for Detroit for many more years, and not only that, like, well, on the Houston side, they got to pay him a little bit of cash, but for them, they're essentially they gave up nothing. They're just
yeah,
paying him money, obviously,
yeah,
right? So, like you said, win-win for both sides. And as we said earlier, Detroit's just gone on a little bit of a tear. They're gonna rejig their team, so it's a win-win for both sides.
exactly. I feel like he must have been locker room cancer for Detroit, and that's why they just didn't even like trade him. Just cut ties, get out of here.
Exactly. I guess so. The only real loser here is the owners of the Pistons and the payroll there, because definitely don't want to be paying out millions per year to.
A player
But
who's not even helping you. Yeah,
that's the hallmark of the NBA, though, right? So
exactly. Another big move that's just happened. I think it was yesterday or today, whatever. Uh,
last night, yeah, the tweets were going around.
Dion Waiters going to OKC. All right, three-team deal. So OKC gets Waiters from the Cavs. The Cavs get Iman Shumpert and J.R. Smith, and a protected first-round pick from OKC. So they got Shumpert and Smith from New York and a protected first-round pick from OKC. And I don't know what the Knicks got. They're just going for cap space.
Well, the Knicks got a bunch of dudes, yeah, like Lou Amundsen and
A bunch of dudes they can waive with no penalties.
exactly. So they might hold on to a couple of them, but yeah, for them it's more of addition by subtraction, save some money. Their season is in the tank for them, so.
Yeah, the next season is in the tank, and with it, so are my fantasy hopes, because I have Carmelo Anthony, and they're probably shutting him down for the rest of the season, which sucks for me.
I did see a headline now recently. It's like Mello, I'm not shutting it down for the season, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, he's definitely not going to be getting the same sort of minutes and wear and tear on his body, and
Exactly. I should have
the game.
moved him earlier when I had the chance.
But what are your thoughts on the trade? I mean, this is when I was following this last night on Twitter, I was losing my mind. Like this is a pretty big trade. It's affecting like three of the more popular teams too.
Exactly. Well, honestly, when I first heard about this trade, I'm like, what the hell is the point of this trade? Because it didn't really make sense to me. Like Dion Waiters, he's kind of an ISO heavy guard who chucks up a lot of shots. Um, and so now they got J.R. Smith, who's an ISO heavy guard who chucks up a lot of shots. Um, if I had to pick a winner, um, I think I'd go with OKC. Maybe they can have waiters coming off the bench, giving them some scoring punch off the bench. Because I feel like if you can't really play him with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, there just won't be enough basketballs to go around. Um, the Cavs, they get J.R. Smith and Shumpert. That could help their depth. But Shumpert is out right now. He dislocated his shoulder about a month ago. Um, so I don't know. Like, if I had to call a winner, I'd say OKC, but I wouldn't say it's a clear winner. How about you?
Well, I think this is. I think every team is a winner here because it meets all their needs. First off, OKC. I mean, this is what they needed. Like, first off, you know, they're doing well. They're on a bit of a tear. They gotta appease Russell and Durant and say, we are making moves. We want to keep you guys. We are gonna be a contender. And Dion Waiters, you know, is a good piece. He can be an impact player. And what did they give up? They gave up essentially just like a first round protected pick, which isn't, that's not a too much to give up because it is protected. And I mean, even on their last first rounders that they've had for the past few years, they've kind of whiffed on some guys, or they're starting to produce now, but really they haven't done too much with those guys. So I mean, I think this is huge. I mean, Waiters, I can see him in the starting lineup. I think he's gonna play well, and he's gonna do what he needs to do in terms of he's not afraid to shoot. He's gonna lighten the load a little bit off of Grant and Westbrook and give them, another guy that teams need to respect defensively. He can score put the ball in the hoop, and it really, is gonna also help just strengthen the depth that they have. Now the second unit as well on um, OKC is just kind of strengthened in terms of, when Reggie Jackson's hitting the court, he's gonna be spitting fire, getting to the basket, doing Reggie Jackson things. So no, I think this is a great move. They got an impact player, another guy that can handle the ball, isn't afraid to score, and that's what they needed because they didn't have that depth the year that OKC made that run. They had Harden, who would lead the second unit and then played crunch time in fourth quarter, which I could see Dion Waiters can do the same thing in terms of, yeah, he can come in, whatever, end of the first, midway through the first quarter with the second unit, playing with Reggie, score the basketball, and he can play in those fourth quarter situations. So, big win in my books for the Thunder.
All right. I can see that. I am interested to see how this plays out. Because, yeah, OKC, they do need a third option, right? KD and Russ are amazing, but you can't just have them doing all the work and then just fall off when they go to the bench.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how, he embraces his role and, what's asked of him and how he kind of fits in there. So that's going to be the interesting part.
Yeah. And I want to see LeBron James get pissed off at J.R. Smith. I think that'll be funny.
So for the Cavs, I mean, it makes sense. Like the whole waiters thing, he wasn't accepting his role there. We know all this stuff, how he was a cancer in the locker room. And yeah, it was really just being an asshole and not getting along with those guys. So right there is addition by subtraction. And then in terms of getting J.R. Smith, all right, yeah, he's another guy that can be considered not a great team player and a cancer in the locker room. But when did J.R. Smith play his best basketball? Like become sixth man of the year, the year that the Knicks were competitive. They're a good team that made the playoffs. That's what he really needs is, you know, having being on a good team where, they can compete and then he'll be more likely to accept his role. So being on the Cavs, they're gonna make the playoffs. He's all about winning, so I think, he can play that Dion Waiters role. And, Dion Waiters wanted to start, wasn't really accepting coming off the bench. JR's been, in that six man role, so he's going to fit much better into that role and can just accept that. And then in addition to that, all right, they're getting a first round pick from OKC, that doesn't hurt. And then Shumpert, which, you know, once he gets healed up, Shumpert's a good player. Like, he's not the greatest. He's kind of like, a niche kind of role player, but he can play D, he can shoot the ball, he can handle the ball. He's a good role player. So he's definitely a guy you want on your team. So again, I see this as a win for the Cavs, which I don't want to see because I don't want to see the Cavs being successful and making moves like this because that was their problem was not having bodies and not really fielding a good team outside their stars. So I'm definitely not happy to see this for the Cavs.
Yeah, well, I like Shumpert. Like he's still young. He's still learning. So I'm sure being under LeBron James will help him. Yeah, either this will work out for them, or in 4 weeks we'll be talking about how the Cavs just fired their coach. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, and then going on to the Knicks. excuse me. It makes sense, right? They're pretty much throwing in the towel mail in the season, save some money. And I read just recently on Twitter that they said everyone on the team is up for grabs outside of Melo, and they're trying to shop around Calderon apparently. So let's see what happens there if they make some more moves. Maybe Masai will swindle them. Not that they really have any assets that we want, but
The Knicks are actually worse now than Philadelphia, so yeah, it's not a good place to be.
exactly.
Yeah. Although turning our attention to another team which only has 5 wins, let's look at Minnesota and Andrew Wiggins.
Wiggins has been going off, stepping it up, which I like to see.
Yeah, they haven't won too many games. They've been on a bit of a losing streak lately, but it's not Wiggins' fault. He's been on a tear. He's been putting up big numbers. 27 points against Cleveland, 22 points against Denver, another 27 against Sacramento. Like he's starting to pick it up. It looks like he's starting to grasp the NBA game. He's putting up big minutes too. 40 minutes against Utah, Sacramento, 41 minutes against Denver. So it looks like he's learning quickly in the NBA.
Exactly. So he actually won the award for like Rookie Player of the Month. And like you said, he's been getting big minutes, putting up 20 points a game, and just looking awesome. Because that's the thing, like he can play the minutes because he is a good defensive player. And now that he's actually scoring consistently in double digits, he's not putting up those lines, where he's like 2 for 8 or, you know, 1 for 5 with 4 points. He's actually asserting himself, scoring the scoring the basketball, and just looking good all around and leading the team.
Exactly, and he's shooting a good percentage too. I don't have a calculator off the top of my head, but these past 6, 7 games looks like he's shooting about 50%, so that's pretty good. Um, it's good for his development. Glad to see that Canada basketball's coming up. Hopefully the Timberwolves can get some help for him next season, and they can get some wins.
Canada what? Wiggins representing. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said about Anthony Bennett, who's just been laying an egg over there. But
We just won't talk. We just won't talk about Anthony Bennett. He'll
I'm
he'll he'll be better. He'll be
I'm
fine.
still holding out and rooting for him. Like he's still my man. I'm still all on board the Anthony Bennett train. But yeah, he's been playing terribly.
Yeah, he was playing all right in the beginning of the season, but he has fallen off. And just watching the World Juniors hockey got me excited for one day when I can proudly cheer for Canada basketball.
Exactly. That'll be a moment. That'll be a moment.
Yeah, can't wait to have a Canada basketball jersey.
Exactly. I mean, you should get a Nash Canada basketball jersey.
Nah, I
That
want
was actually the last time Canada basketball was really in the headlines irrelevant was when Nash refused to play for the team.
to. Yeah. No, if I'm getting a Canada basketball jersey, it's Wiggins for sure.
Yeah, no, that'd be sick.
Yeah. Uh, so just to wrap up with some interesting little tidbits, we recently had an interview with Loyal to a T. They provide T-shirts for basketball fans everywhere. They make the Raptors T-shirts where with the starting lineup on it, like Drake. It spells Drake with DeMar, Kyle, Jonas, Terrence, and Amir or Johnson. Uh, Anything to say about that?
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Thanks to those guys for give us an interview, get another outlet for us to just to talk about ourselves, which we love. And no, it was a really good interview. Their shirts are pretty cool. So if you guys haven't checked it out, check it out. Get to know Joe Bugs and Deuce a little bit better. And yeah, hear a little bit about of our history and how we became the Raptors fans that we are today. And really how it shaped us as people.
Yeah, and you can find that over at loyaltoat.com. Yeah.
Yeah, so check out their blog. Another topic I know that you wanted to talk about, and you sent me some tweets and some text about it, which was the swipe right night
Yep.
for the Atlanta Hawks, presented by Tinder.
Yeah, when I saw this, I couldn't believe it was real. Cause you know me, like when I go to the Raptors game, I'm always gonna boot up Tinder and in the intermission, just swipe, see who's around, see if anyone's interested. But I do like the idea of just promoting a Tinder night at a basketball game. Um, just because like when I go to a basketball game in Toronto, man, we got beautiful fans. Some of the hottest girls. Girls get dolled up to go to the Raptors game. They put on nice stuff, they put on makeup, they look good. Um, so I'm definitely all about promoting Tinder at a basketball game. I tweeted at the Raptors in the Air Canada Center. I'm hoping they got my memo. Can set up a Twitter night or a Tinder night for us in the coming sometime in the future.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I would even one up that and just suggest to the Toronto Raptors that they should just have a bachelor auction with our main man, Deuce Deuce, on the stage, auction him off to the highest bidder. But no, like you're saying, that's what's so much. That's part of the fun of like a Raptors game. Obviously, we go because we love the team, we love watching the games, we love basketball. But as a nice aside, is that yes, there is a lot of good-looking women going there. It's an event out, a night on the town. You know, they look good, and I know that, you know, one of your weaknesses is just seeing a woman wearing, a Raptors toque, a Kyle Lowry jersey, one of those nice little tight Kyle Lowry jerseys or whatever, like a tight woman basketball jersey. Like, I seen your knees buckle and like your neck just snapped to the side many a time. So,
Yeah, I almost
no,
get whiplash just turning around so quick trying to see.
exactly. But yeah, no, the swipe right night is pretty hilarious. Good to see Tinder promoting. It would be pretty hilarious if they have something similar for the Raptors at some point. But you know, don't let for all our lady listeners, don't let that stop you. Look for Deuce on Tinder at the game.
I'll
He,
next time I go, I'm gonna put my section number in my profile, just so they know where to find me.
for sure. So anything else you wanted to say before we wrap this up?
Not too much. Just can't wait for the upcoming homestand. It's gonna be good. I say we
Exactly.
just take all six. Like, let's not leave anything on the table.
Nope, definitely. I'm right with you there. We should, like I was saying earlier, don't want to harp on it too much again, but come on, Raps, our squad. Let's take care of business. Grab some wins. I'm going to be there on Thursday night for the Charlotte game. Pretty pumped, and yeah, hope everyone had a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be coming out with a lot more content in 2015. Thanks for all the support. Make sure you follow us on IG at Dino Bros, on Twitter at Dino Bros _TO, and on YouTube, youtube.com/Dino Bros TO.
Yeah, and don't forget to vote for Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan using hashtag NBA ballot.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Boogie out.
Deuce out.